Oh boy, I hope you love talking NFL draft because we're going to be talking about 2021's fantasy rookies.
Ooh.
What can we expect for them? We're going to preview it on the show. I'm pretty excited. I love talking about who could be the next Justin Jefferson. Who could be the next Jonathan Taylor? Well,
Wow.
Let's talk about it on today's show.
Welcome to the Fantasyland Football Podcast.
All right, welcome into the show. Hello, it is Thursday, the 4th of February, and I'm here in beautiful Sydney, Australia, with my co-host Daniel Badaki. Badaki, how you doing today? How you feeling? How you living?
Feeling good. Sun's out. It's a beautiful day here.
Maybe a pool day. Sun's out, guns out.
Sun's out, guns out. Oh, you don't want to see the guns. Not right now.
You're not ready for the guns. Oh, my goodness. I feel like we have a pretty fun podcast today, Badaki. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that. I love talking about rookies and who could be the next type of guy. Do you feel the same way about today's pod? I mean, I feel like we're hyping ourselves up, but why not? You know?
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people are going to be looking into these guys in the future, especially in the late rounds. These guys could be fantasy relevant, whether it's this year coming up or in the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm pretty hyped about it.
Same. And we are only... How many days from the Super Bowl? We are only 4 or 5 days from the Super Bowl LV. I saw some photos on Instagram that the NFL released of the field, and it looks so nice. It
Raymond James Stadium,
like
baby.
It's gonna be, Badaki is Tampa Bay home. He knows all about the home stadium there in Tampa Bay.
Bro.
He used to live by it.
Yeah, I used to go to school right across the street from Raymond James Stadium. A fun fact, I don't know if you saw, they're not going to be using the cannons when the Bucs score, which is
They're not.
Nah. They're only gonna shoot it they're only gonna shoot the cannons when they come out, but then not when they score.
Okay, that makes sense. I feel like that doesn't feel like a very big advantage, but I mean,
It doesn't feel like a big
whatever.
advantage, but it does change it. You know, like it can get the crowd hype. It actually does change it. Like
Change the atmosphere. That's
yeah,
what we
like
always say.
legit. Every time they score, they shoot it 6 times or 7 times or whatever, and you know it can get the crowd hype. But
I'm hyped for it. You and I are probably going to watch it together with some of the guys from our league. I'm pretty hyped. Okay, let's talk about some need-to-know news to start the show.
What is going on here?
What is going on in the NFL? This is your need-to-know news. Deshaun Watson, I feel like we have talked about him for 10 years straight is what it feels like on need-to-know news. But there is continually news every time we do a podcast. Doesn't want to be in Houston, okay? No. And there was a report that came out this morning or this afternoon rather, that the Jets aren't really on his list at all, which is what I kind of thought would happen. Not sure why on the top of a superstar's list would be the New York Jets, but a report came out that the Jets aren't really on his list.
Yeah, they're not on his list. I mean, I wouldn't want to be on the Jets list, or I wouldn't want the Jets to be on a list of the teams that I really want to go to. But
yeah,
I think that kind of says a lot right now. You know, there was a lot of talks of, you know, Sam Darnold being traded out or whatever the case may be to the Jets for Deshaun Watson. But I think that can kind of be put to rest for now. Is either they're going to stay with Sam Darnold or they're going to draft a quarterback, which is going to be interesting, at least on the Jets side.
Based off of what they have said about Sam Darnold, that coaching staff, it sounds like they're going to stick with him and maybe get him some weapons or some help. So several teams Watson is open to. I think it's fair to say higher. Are you taking the over under 90% that Deshaun Watson will not be a Texan anymore? He will be traded. 90 percentile.
That he will be traded?
Fair? Yeah.
Yeah.
I really didn't word that well at all.
Yeah,
but
no.
is there a 90% chance? I'm taking 90% if I had to put a percentage on the chance that he does get traded. Wow, that's a beautiful way to say it.
I think so. I actually just had an epiphany. I think the only way somebody trades for Deshaun Watson is going to be during the draft.
No, there's no doubt in my mind that does not happen.
You
You
never know.
never see blockbuster trades like that in the draft, bro. When have we ever seen that?
Exactly. It's an NBA type trade, an NBA type offseason. Come on, bro.
I mean, anything could happen, but I really doubt that the Texans are going to put themselves in a place where they're like, oh, these guys are up on the clock. Hey, you want Deshaun Watson? No way, bro. I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Anyways, Richard Sherman, John Gruden on Chris Collinsworth podcast.
He said anyways. All right, let's move on. Go ahead.
Look, there's been some talks with these two guys. They both appeared to be expressing mutual interest. Sherman in the Raiders and John Gruden into Richard Sherman. It's actually a quote that I kind of want to read out to you right now from John Gruden. I've been fined. I've been punished, but Richard Sherman, if you are a free agent, which there is rumors that you are, we're looking for an alpha presence in our secondary, which is crazy. Somebody that can play this technique. If you're available and interested, maybe we can get together later at some point off air. So, look.
Collusion.
Yeah, look.
Collusion. Find that boy.
And I think that's interesting. And Richard Sherman responded, was like, yeah, like I'm down. He says, I am a free agent. I am available. Like I could be interested in talking. So it's going to be interesting to see Richard Sherman go to this defense if he does get traded.
Get signed in the offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I feel like if there's a head coach and there's a player that's a free agent and it's a need for that team, why would they not talk? I don't get why this is so surprising. All right. Carson Wentz officially, he wants out. He wants out of Philadelphia. He's not happy. Mm-hmm. If they can't come to an agreement, then the Eagles want at least a first-round pick for Carson Wentz, which is hilarious to me considering his performance this year. You want a first-round pick for Carson Wentz? Oh, by the way, he has a massive contract that every team is going to hate. Yeah, can someone give us a first-round pick? That sounds great, please. There's absolutely no way the Eagles get a first-round pick for Carson Wentz. You have to be out of your mind to think that that's a possibility. Genuinely.
It's interesting. One team that I just really quick, one team I like Carson Wentz going to would probably be the Denver Broncos. I don't know why. That was the first team that came to my head. But yeah, it's so first-round pick for Carson Wentz. Nah, bro.
Look, that's assuming he regains his MVP form. Are they not aware that no one wants to have his contract? Just open your eyes. Would you do that if you were the GM of another team? Come on. Wake up. All right, last thing on news today was Jameis Winston Badaki.
Yeah, look, the Saints, quote-unquote, very big interest in re-signing Jameis Winston this offseason. Obviously, he's been under Drew Brees the past year. He's been in the Saints offense in the past year. He knows the scheme. He knows everything. And, the Saints believe that he could be a good fit to kind of come in and just take over for Drew Brees. He's still young. He's only 27 years old. It's going to be interesting to see if he does get signed. I think they probably sign him after the draft to see who's available on the board, or maybe they try to get a trade or a young quarterback. I don't think Jameis is the guy, bro.
I wonder if that's more of a statement to say, hey, we'd love a decent quarterback at a discount.
Yeah.
We already have a relationship with one? Oh, perfect.
You know what? One thing that's not a need to know news, Derek Carr and how he's a potential guy to be shopped this off season.
Yep.
And lots
of teams apparently interested. I don't know. I mean, all respect to Derek Carr because he played well, but as a fan of my team, Washington, I don't necessarily want him there. I don't think he's the answer at quarterback. He's just going to be like a decent guy. He's not going to be a guy to carry you to the playoffs and win some games.
It's interesting. He definitely has improved this past year. He's taken significant strides to being a better quarterback. Maybe that's because of John Gruden and how amazing the guy is. or what, but maybe he just needs a good team around him, which he hasn't really had. Now he has JJ behind him. Doesn't really have receivers. Henry Huggs.
Yeah, look, for Derek Carr, he's probably just sick of John Gruden at this point.
But more than anything, I want better execution. Are we clear on that? I want better execution.
He's like, all right, coach, calm down. All right, can I get to another team here? All right, that is all for Need to Know News today. Hey, guys, the best way to keep up with all things NFL and fantasy football is to follow us on our social media accounts. And my goodness, what have we done? We made it so easy for you. One link that you can find all of our social media and the podcast and YouTube. That's solo.to/fantasylandfootball. Again, solo.to/fantasylandfootball. That has our Facebook group, our Twitter, our Instagram, our TikTok, YouTube, Patreon. You can support us, support the show if you enjoy it. All those links in that one link for you. So go ahead and check it out if you'd like to follow us on our different accounts. But we've got a fun segment we're about to hop into. It's 2021 Fantasy Rookies Preview. Let's talk about some rookies that maybe not everyone is talking about. Some of them have been highlighted. Some of them haven't been highlighted enough. So let's get into it.
I'm a firm believer. Where you go is more important than when.
All right. So what we've done, Badaki, is we haven't taken all the people who will be fantasy relevant because we couldn't possibly cover all of that in one podcast.
Right.
But we've taken out like the top, let's say, 5 picks, top 5-6 picks. And we've talked about the rest of the players that will be drafted that could be fantasy relevant, right? So we're not talking about Trevor Lawrence. We're not talking about Fields, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith. We talked about those guys on our top 5 NFL mock draft. You can find that podcast we did a couple weeks ago. But in this podcast, we're going to be talking about the rest of the field and people that we think could be fantasy relevant. We're going to talk about them, what fits they could potentially land in. The first guy is Trey Lance, and we did talk about him on our previous podcast, but let's briefly talk about him. We don't want to spend too much, but what is his ideal fit for you, in your opinion?
Look, ideally, my number 1 pick for sure would be the Panthers, in my opinion.
Okay.
I like him going there. I think he's a great, mobile quarterback that he can kind of run. He can kind of fit in, Matt Rule's scheme and kind of go into there. But I also like the Colts, just to throw that in there. I like the Colts him going to the Colts. But if I had to pick one, it's definitely the Panthers. Okay, obviously he has a lot of strengths and weaknesses, but I kind of want to highlight on his strengths. He's really good. He's, like I said, he's good with his legs. He can run the ball. He has great athleticism. He's developed throughout his whole career, his footwork, his arm strength, all that. And what's crazy, and one thing that I picked out that I really liked from Trey Lance was him being good lining up in that pistol formation, in that gun formation, which I believe that, I think Matt Rule likes. He likes a fast, quick, small offensive team, just like, your Curtis Samuels, your Robbie Andersons. We saw a lot of Teddy Bridgewater in the pistol for a little bit, but he can also align on the center, but that's one of his strengths. But look, I think there's also a big concern. Obviously, everyone has concern, strength and weaknesses for everyone. He really only played 1 game this year, and there's not much film.
Wasn't awesome, was it? It wasn't an awesome game. I mean, the dude ran 15 times for like Madden like numbers on the ground, but through the air, it wasn't awesome. Okay, so your pick, your fit, is officially the Panthers. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, Carolina Panthers. I like that because I agree. I do see them out of the backfield working really well with CMC, and I don't hate that pick. For me, my ideal fit, again, I do think the Panthers are a decent fit. I think Chicago could be in contention. I don't like it for Trey, but my ideal fit is the San Francisco 49ers, okay? Let me pitch this to you as if you were Trey Lance, okay, Badaki?
Okay. Yes, coach.
Trey, how do you feel about going to the Bay? San Francisco, you got the Golden Gate Bridge, you got the history of the Steve Young, Joe Montana. What an honor it would be to wear that 49ers helmet. And by the way, there's no pressure day one to step in and start, okay? Because you got Jimmy G there. You can maybe halfway through the season, if Jimmy struggles, maybe year 2 you can take over from Jimmy. But regardless, you don't have the pressure because we know everyone says you are a raw talent right now. That's the word being thrown around.
Right.
Get to live in the Bay. It's a beautiful breeze all the time. Perfect weather. And you get to play with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert, and a great defense on the other side. By the way, I haven't even talked about Mike Shanahan, one of the best quarterback whisperers in the league, some would say. This is an ideal fit for Trey Lance. He is a little bit of an unknown, right? What are some of his weaknesses that we haven't talked about? Lack of competition. He played at North Dakota State.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of competition there to really give a good gauge on what type of quarterback he could be. Is competition something we should really focus on, or is that something I'm overanalyzing?
Well, look, I think it definitely plays a part of it, but I find these young kids or the kids in college that come from a smaller school, their competitiveness is a lot stronger and a lot more.
They got fight.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like imagine North Dakota State going against Alabama or Ohio State. You know, they want to beat these teams. They want to beat these like top tier college football teams because they're considered the nobodies. Well, not really nobodies, but, you know, just the smaller schools that, you know, not everyone wants to go to or whatever. But I think that you had to compare his competitiveness to his, like, gameplay. And if that can kind of equal up together and you can see that he has that fight, he has that dog mentality, then for sure.
Yeah, I think some other weaknesses that we noticed when we scouted him is one thing that really concerns me is he hasn't necessarily learned to read more than one receiver on a play. He kind of has a tendency to, okay, there's my read. He's not open. Let me run. And in the NFL, defenses are going to eat that up. If you can only read one person on a play, you're not going to, I mean, what has been Lamar Jackson's biggest weakness? Sometimes he just runs the ball too much because he doesn't read the rest of the field.
Right.
That could be something he does need to work on. You know, he's got some technical issues, but that can be fixed. Let's look at Josh Allen, right? He's obviously improved his throwing mechanics so well.
Yeah.
The other thing is the playing time. He's only had 1 year, one full year in college, only played that one game in 2020, as we mentioned. But I like him. And I think the 1 year he played a full entire year, which was 2019, his stats were Madden-like.
Yeah, it was crazy.
He put up crazy stats. And I said this on the last podcast, but my favorite number is a number that's a 0. And that's 0 interceptions. 0 interceptions for a whole year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think, look, he is a sleeper. I think he is a top sleeper quarterback in this draft. I think everyone has been talking about it. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think it's Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance. Some people have it a little bit different. You know, some other people don't really like Trey Lance. You know, some people think that you have to sit on him for a little bit. But I think he can come in if he goes to the right team, he gets that playing time.
How about Zach Wilson?
Will develop.
Are you putting Trey Lance over Zach Wilson now after scouting him?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I think Zach Wilson's talented. I think Zach Wilson, you want him to sit and develop, where I think Trey Lance will flourish by making, obviously everyone's going to learn by making mistakes, but if you put him in, get him in there day one, I think he can really come in and progress, where Zach Wilson needs like 1 to 2 years, I believe.
Okay. The last thing I want to mention on him is we just heard this everywhere. We've been scouting him the whole day, and everywhere we looked, we heard this. He has such a maturity about him. And that's something that you can't really teach. You can't teach maturity in a young quarterback. I mean, sometimes, no offense, but Dwayne Haskins, I'm a Washington fan, there was a real lack of maturity and willingness to give your entire life to football. So That's something that you really want from a guy that you are scouting as a GM. Let's talk about quickly his fantasy relevance. Okay, how do you see Trey Lance's year one? Is there a Justin Herbert type season, or is it more of a Drew Lock type rookie year? And you're not really looking to pick him up just yet.
Right. I actually believe he's right in the middle, more towards Justin Herbert. I don't think he's somebody that he's gonna. Once again, this all depends on where he falls. If he goes to a team that he can play right away, I think maybe towards the end of the year you can pick him up, depending on where he falls. But
Okay.
let's say he sits behind somebody and he doesn't have the opportunity, then he won't be fantasy relevant this year. But personally, I don't think wherever he goes, I'm not going to pick him up right away. I'm going to see how he plays. I want to see 1 or 2 games out of him. And if I believe that he's going to be somebody relevant, even in Dynasty, if he's going to be somebody like, whoa, okay, I've seen some nice glimpses.
I was going to say
I'm
that.
going to pick him up.
Dynasty, he could be very relevant. I'm really excited to see how he develops. And, let's say halfway through the year he wins a job, you should absolutely look at picking him up then, but not before that. All right, next guy on the list. I'm going to start us off with this one. It's Mac Jones out of Alabama. All right, and
his name sounds like sounds like a rapper. Mike Jones. Mike Jones? Mike Jones?
Mike Jones. All right, here's the deal. The Indianapolis Colts are on the clock. With the 21st pick, they select Mac Jones out of Alabama. I honestly just feel like Mac Jones, he just looks like an Indianapolis quarterback. I know we're going to get to actual reasons behind that, but doesn't he just look like a guy who should be in Indianapolis?
Nah,
doesn't he just fit that mold?
I get what you're saying. He has like that Andrew Luck, that Peyton Manning, like he has that like charisma like built to him. But
absolutely, I just found that funny when I was saying it. I was like, you know what? He just looks like he should be in Indianapolis. Here's the conversation I want to propose as my fit for the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are really one solid quarterback and one more weapon on offense away from being a Super Bowl contender. Mm-hmm. The defense is there. They've got a top 5 defense. The offensive line has been good. They need a little help on left tackle this year. But they are really quarterback and one more weapon away from being a real Super Bowl contending team. I like this fit. I think Indianapolis does go hard after Carson Wentz, but with the draft value that the Eagles are expecting in return, I don't think a deal gets done. Some other teams I am okay with is New England and the Washington football team. I'm not sure. I love those fits, but I know one of those are on yours, so I'm going to let you go ahead and say which one is yours.
Yeah, so I have the New England Patriots, and the reason why I have them is because I believe that Bill Belichick is going to do his thing. Once again, he's going to find something that he doesn't see in anyone else that Mac Jones has. He's going to come in and he's going to develop that, and he's going to make that thing that nobody else has shine. And I don't think Mac Jones is the guy that's going to come in and be this amazing quarterback right now. He's not a top prospect. Well, technically he is a top prospect quarterback, but like I think he's towards, if we had a whole list with all the names, he's kind of like halfway above the middle.
Top 5.
Kind of.
He's top 5, but he's not. You're right. He's not a guaranteed first round.
Exactly. He's not a guaranteed first round.
Like, this is an absolute cash pick.
Mm-hmm. So I actually have the Patriots taking him in the second round on the turn. So but anyways, I think that Bill Belichick, he's going to do his Bill Belichick effect. He's going to find something. He's going to do something great. But I think he has great pocket awareness. Mm-hmm. He has the ability to create windows and opportunities in the defense. I think he's a strong leader. He's very smart, and that's what you need. That's what Tom Brady was, and they need somebody that's going to come in and develop, and he create those windows. He has to create those things. It's going to be a slow development, but I think Mac Jones can be somebody, maybe not fantasy related, but just somebody that can actually develop to be something great later on down the road.
All right, I don't know why I feel this name coming up, but I almost feel like Andy Dalton type career. You know, starts off real strong, has some good pieces, but not really the guy to win a Super Bowl. I don't want to, let's be clear about something, though. When you talk about drafts and scouting people now, we don't know where they're going to fit in. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, tons of players work out and tons of players don't work out. This is just hypothetically, right?
Yeah.
Could Mac Jones win a Super Bowl? Yeah, he could. I think it's a little bit less likely that he does, though. But I'm going to cover his strengths. I want you to cover his weaknesses. Okay, some strengths that we have seen. Deep ball, he can chuck it. He can chuck it down the field. He's got a cannon for an arm. And he's got accuracy on those deep balls, which is something that you want. You don't want someone to just be able to throw the ball deep. You want them to be able to do it and do it accurately, and he can do that. He avoids turnovers as well. He's very careful with the ball. He had 402 passing attempts last year, or this year rather. Only 4 interceptions. That's a great ratio. That's a really happy ratio for a lot of head coaches in the league right now. He's an accurate passer as well, and I'm sure that had to do with how he took care of the ball. He completed 77% of his passes. And the last thing I'll highlight as a strength, which I think is really important, is he's developed each year that he's been with Alabama. I don't know if people know this, but he was actually a scout team quarterback. He wasn't actually on the regular team. He was a scout team quarterback.
Yeah.
And eventually he progressed each year, and eventually he was a quarterback of a national championship team. That is something that you want to be looking for. Has this player continually developed, or have they kind of plateaued at this point? Those are his strengths. What are his weaknesses, Badaki?
Right. So I have a couple weaknesses. Look, first off, his footwork needs improvement. Okay. He throws flat-footed a bit too much sometimes. And he's also slow. Okay. I think he's pretty slow. But
he is.
Sorry, you were going to say something?
No, I obviously I wrote that down as well. I just think it's really funny because this dude is not mobile. He's not moving.
He's not fast. So, but one thing that I picked up when I was looking at him and everything, and with a lot of scouters were saying, is that he needs a 3 Ps. Okay. And I'm just going to read something out to you. It says, Jones is a passer that will need a 3 Ps surrounding him: playmakers, play callers, protection. A high tier level in order to see his full potential on a consistent basis. And he isn't the thrower that we will be able to overcome those elements being at a lower level tier. So, and I find that, accurate. He needs a great offensive line. He needs playmakers around him. And, he needs a good offensive coach or a coach, a play caller to make the right plays for him, because I don't see him. And I think that's why New England for me is the best fit. Okay. Obviously he doesn't have the playmakers there yet. I think Bill Belichick will bring somebody in. It could be an Allen Robinson. It could be a Kenny G, the play callers. Bill Belichick and McDaniels, I think, is still out there. Is he still out there? Probably calling the plays. If that's him, that's guy calling the plays. And protection. Obviously, the offensive line is not the best, but that's always key. That was always key for Tom. That's always going to be key for Bill Belichick, and I think that's what's going to happen.
I think while you say you think that everything you said highlights why he should be on the Patriots, I think it highlights why he should be on the Colts.
On the Colts, yeah,
for
sure.
They have great pass protection. They have some weapons, and I mean, Jonathan Taylor, having him set up with a great offensive line and up and coming Michael Pittman Jr., he might have some of those P's already in place. But I agree, he's not really the type he's obviously nowhere close to the quarterback that Deshaun Watson is, right?
Yeah.
But he could never be the guy to just carry a team without that help around him, I don't think, personally.
Right. It's going to be interesting, and you're right. I don't think the Colts are, now thinking about it, are a better fit. But I think the Pats down the road could be the best fit for him because Bill
maybe organizationally. Right?
Yeah, exactly. He's going to learn so much just with the Bill Belichick mindset and all of these people that they have around him. Matt Patricia is back there. Maybe he likes Matt Patricia or whatever. They get along well. I don't know. But
yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap Mac Jones up and quickly talk about his relevancy in fantasy in year one. I would rather talk about him in Dynasty. So let's quickly just from a Dynasty perspective. I'm not sure that you're really looking at drafting Mac Jones year one. I think, obviously, if he gets named a starter in a team with offensive weapons, add him. See what happens, right? But let's talk about Dynasty because I feel like he's a guy in Dynasty drafts that maybe you should take a chance on, right? I mean, he's got a good deep ball, and oftentimes in fantasy football, that's a very valuable thing to have in a quarterback.
Yeah, not really. So I have the same thing. I have the same notes. Like, I think Dynasty could be the play if he goes to the right team. I think if he goes to the Colts, I will be choosing him in Dynasty. If he goes to the Patriots, he can be, I don't know, he won't be fantasy relevant,
Yeah, not for a while.
Not for a while. And I mean, I'm not looking at him at all in the drafts. I'm not thinking that he's going to be someone that's going to be fantasy relevant in the near future. It really all depends on what's going to happen and where he lands. But for me right now, I'm not looking at Mac Jones at all.
All right, cool. Well, the next guy, we both have, it looks like, I haven't actually looked at your notes for this. I wanted to be surprised. But it looks like we both have the right landing spot. So I'm going to let you make the call. The Steelers are on the clock. Who do they select?
Yeah, so Najee Harris, the Steelers select Najee Harris. And I really like this guy. Obviously, we saw what he did in that championship and what he was doing there. And one of the things that I really like about this guy, he reminds me of like a LeGarrette Blount, somebody big, strong, a Brandon Jacobs. Okay, maybe not as
don't disrespect the guy. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I that's how I see him. I think he's a big guy.
That was a rude comment. Sorry. Those running backs were great in their prime.
Yeah, so I think I see him. I look at him and that's what I see. I see his size. He's big. He's powerful. He can catch the ball. He's versatile. He always falls forward. He's hard to tackle. And I think those are his key strengths. All those things are why he's great. I believe, especially him being a good pass catcher in the backfield, is because that's the NFL. That opens up the playbook for a team if your running back can catch the ball. So I love the fit in the Steelers. I also have the Patriots. I actually have the Patriots taking Harris first, and then second round taking Mac Jones. So that's a scenario.
Mac falls to the second, but yeah,
that's a scenario. But I think he has his best fit at the Steelers because we all know James Conner is going to get hurt.
Yeah,
Benny Snell, we know is not the guy, and Harris is going to come
in and be this guy. Is James Conner a free agent? Am I wrong on that?
Say that again.
Is James Conner a free agent? Am I wrong on that?
No, I think he is a free agent.
Okay, so with James Conner, let's be honest. No disrespect, but he's not really the franchise running back they were looking for at this point. But I want to just continue to add on to Pittsburgh because I also believe it's the best fit.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one thing we've been talking about for the entire second half of the year with the Steelers, other than Juju dancing on logos? It was the running game.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the running game? Why can't they run the ball? Well, how about you get an elite running back like Najee Harris? Maybe that might help your problems. If they had an elite running back, maybe they would have gone further in the playoffs. Maybe the playbook would have opened up more. Maybe those weapons could have been more utilized. In 2019, he had a great year. And what I want to highlight is his progression in the passing game, because that's a little bit underlooked. In 2019, 27 receptions, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But this year in 2020, he got 43 receptions. He actually has, as we've been scouting him, he actually has really good hands. And I think that's a little bit underlooked. I think in the modern day NFL, it's what you're looking for. I think he is a legit 3-down back.
Mm-hmm.
He has the ability to catch the ball, make plays. He's athletic. He's got the size, obviously not of a Derrick Henry, but he's got a big size, a big frame, acceleration. And also, when this dude gets hit when he takes contact, he eats it up. He's like, yeah, go ahead. I need that. That's my extra G fuel boost. You know, he's like, all right, yeah, I'm ready for that. I love this fit. I personally think it could be a match made in heaven for him. And imagine Najee Harris. I did this before, but Daki, let me pretend you're Najee Harris, right? All right, Najee. Pittsburgh's interested in you. I mean, we know Pittsburgh, right? They got legends. Legends like Franco Harris, Jerome the Bus Bettis, Le'Veon Bell, I'd say, is a legend. You get to join the Steel City. Big Ben is at the end of his prime, but you got a real small window at a Super Bowl if you land with this team, and you would be the number one guy there. Sounds pretty appealing, doesn't it? By the way, Juju's probably gone as well, just so you know.
Look, I really like this fit, and I think the Steelers is a great fit for him. It's going to be really interesting where he falls and where he lands. Or where he falls and lands. That's the same thing, basically. But it's going to be really interesting what team is going to draft him. I'm actually really excited to see what's going to happen. But I kind of want to talk about his weaknesses, because I think that's also a big thing.
For sure.
One thing I took out from this was that he doesn't have that top end speed. You know, he can't run away from defenders. So, you know, he's going to get in that open field, and I feel like more than half of the time, you know, a safety or a corner is going to be able to catch him. He's not going to have those massive breakout. I think he could. I mean, I guess if you think of fantasy relevance, you know, it doesn't seem like he's going to have a 70-yard touchdown run, because he's not fast enough, because you know somebody like DK is going to chase him down. Or something crazy. Why
would DK be playing defense?
Well, I'm talking about like somebody with DK.
What's going on in this scenario?
I'm talking about somebody like DK speed.
Right,
like he's gonna
he's
gonna be on the 10-yard line, could have a 90-yard run, but you're gonna have this defender that's hella fast coming in.
Right. You know what comes to mind is actually that Ronald Jones run against Carolina. Like in that scenario, I don't think Najee Harris makes it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But you're right. He is fast. He's got quick acceleration, but you're right. That speed for that long run, could it develop? Maybe, but it's not the best speed you've ever seen, is it?
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things. And then also, when he's in space, he tends to dance around more. You know, he tries to juke rather than kind of run over somebody. Where I think if he were to run over that person, he can probably break that tackle. You know, he can probably get that defender off him, but he tends to kind of juke and dance. He wants to spin. He wants to do all this, which is all right. But
yeah,
it's interesting.
Are we human or are we dancers? I guess that's the question here. No, I love Najee Harris. All right, let's quickly talk about his fantasy relevance in year one. I think in Dynasty, I said this on the show yesterday, he's absolutely should be in your top 3 picks in a Dynasty league, in my opinion. But let's talk about year one in a redraft league. If he lands in a team, another team I wanted to quickly bring up is Buffalo. Buffalo could be a good fit.
That'd be amazing.
You know, maybe even like Arizona could be a good fit if they don't re-sign Kenyon Drake. But let's say he lands on a team and he is the running back one. I personally feel like he's got a lot of potential. Friendly reminder, this dude scored 30 touchdowns this year in college, 26 on the ground.
Right.
He is absolutely able to be a goal line back. If he falls to Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Arizona, I really love his year one outlook, and I think he could be drafted pretty early like Jonathan Taylor was, maybe in like the 5th round of drafts. What do you think?
Yeah, I see that. I definitely see that happening. I can see him going it like, you know. Yeah, I was going to say I see him going in the rounds of where, you know, James Conner went, where David Johnson went, you know.
Conner went way too high this year, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, like, I see him. I'll pick Najee over David Johnson, you know, over James Conner, if he still stays, and you say Najee goes to a different team, for sure. Now, I definitely believe that he's going to be fantasy relevant this year. Once again, it all depends on the team that he goes to. I think no matter where he goes, he will have some sort of fantasy relevance. I think Najee is going to be a guy that, you pick up 1 week off the waiver wires, and he's going to be somebody that can win you 1 or 2 weeks. He's going to have boom and bust weeks. I think he's going to be one of those type players in his first year, but in his second year, he's really going to take off. I believe he's extremely talented.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to let people who are listening know, for whatever reason, in the apartment I'm staying in, there has been people working on the side of our apartment, working on what was called facade for it feels like 3 weeks straight. So I'm sorry if you hear any background noise. Let's move on. This is the guy I'm most excited to talk about today. I just genuinely feel like he could be an absolute fantasy star. I'm really excited to see where he lands, but let me drop you a scenario, okay? Mm-hmm. Obviously, Sam Darnold stays in New York, okay? Let's say they add maybe Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith. Maybe they trade back in the draft from that 2 pick, or maybe they get offensive line help. The Jets are on the clock, okay? And it's the second round. And they select Travis Etienne out of Clemson. This dude, we've been waiting for him to hit the NFL for a minute. I mean, he has been an absolute weapon at Clemson for quite a while now. Look, here's my take on the Jets, and I'll let you say where you think he's going to go. It's no secret that the Jets have no real offensive weapons. No offense, no disrespect to Jamison Crowder, but Etienne is 100% a weapon. The Jets, do they stick with Sam Darnold? Do they draft someone? I don't know. But regardless, there's still massive holes everywhere in this offense. I love Travis Etienne for them. I think he could go to a better team, has a better offense already set up. But from a perspective of pure volume, if he gets drafted to the Jets, my goodness, that volume, he's going to have all the opportunity he wants to be a fantasy relevant player. I'm personally saying the Jets are my favorite fit. I think Arizona, Pittsburgh could be teams that are in there if they don't re-sign their current running backs. But I'm curious. I think he can make an impact day one. This guy finished as the ACC's all-time leading rusher. Insane speed, insane burst. What fit do you have before we talk about his attributes?
Yeah, so for me, I see him going to the Atlanta Falcons. Okay.
Ooh, I actually haven't seen your list. Wow. Okay.
So,
I'm listening.
I see him going in the second round. Maybe he goes in the third, but depending on where he falls. But I see that obviously Todd Gurley has some issues. I think Todd Gurley stays in Atlanta. I think he still has one more year in his contract. And he sits under Todd Gurley. But what happens is that,
Wait. Todd Gurley only had a 1-year contract.
Was it 1 year?
Todd Gurley ain't coming back.
I thought it was 2 years. But look, I believe that he's gonna come in with Matty Ice. We all know that they love to do screens. They love to run the ball. He's a physical back. He can catch the ball. I think we saw this. He was an all-time leader in rushing yards, and we know that he can run the ball. Okay, but I love this fit in Atlanta with Julio, Calvin, Etienne.
Yeah,
Hayden Hurst. There's all these weapons that's going to come in. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. I really, really enjoy that fit. I think that's the most fun fantasy fit as well.
Yeah.
Because, man, the Falcons, if they had a running back like Etienne there, that could fill a hole they've had for a long, long time. They've really needed someone to be a running back like that for them. All right, let's quickly talk about his strengths. I think if you know anything about him or you've watched a highlight reel, you know this dude is an absolute weapon. He's an X factor. Okay, he's explosive. He's got great balance. Why is that important? Why am I talking about balance? Why don't we ask Alvin Kamara? This dude works on his balance 24/7. Mm-hmm. That's why he's able to be so explosive and agile in the runs that he makes. He can run east and west as good as he can run north and south, and that's important because you want a guy who can hit the corners instead of just north and south. Sorry.
Right.
I think he's an absolute weapon. He probably his best attribute as a running back is the fact that he is an absolute nightmare when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Are you going to put a linebacker on this guy out of the backfield? He's an absolute mismatch. I am so excited to see him in the NFL. I'm hyped on him. I'm genuinely hyped on him, but I'll go ahead and let you. I'm the good cop. You're the bad cop. So what's his weaknesses? You get to do the bad cop part.
Yeah, look, the bad cop part is he needs to be more patient. His vision needs to improve as a running back. I think sometimes he can be a little bit too eager when he gets into the hole, or he's waiting for the line to develop. But inconsistent in pass protection as well, which is a big thing, especially for Matty Ice. That offensive line is and he needs to be able to protect. If he goes to Atlanta, he needs to be able to protect his quarterback.
Well, I can promise you, if he goes to the Jets, it's going to be the same issue. So I agree.
But yeah, he's also once again, it's also about pass blocking. He lacks the technique and actually how to execute those blocks. But other than that, I think he's incredible. Like you said, his strengths, he's really great, explosive, great receiver. He's a nightmare in the backfield. For the linebackers, which is going to be crazy.
One thing I quickly want to highlight is, because it worries me from a fantasy perspective, is he really doesn't have the body to be that goal line running back. It's 3rd and 1. It's 1st and goal and on the 1 yard line. Maybe a team brings in another back instead of Etienne in that scenario. I don't know. He doesn't necessarily have the biggest body, the biggest frame. So that worries me. But let's quickly talk about his fantasy relevance in year 1. I've talked about him from the very beginning. I started talking about him. I said I'm super excited for him in fantasy football. I think if he's a day 1 starter, there is tons of potential to have a massive rookie season, depending on where he lands, right? Of course, depending on where he lands, he has top 15 running back potential, in my opinion. Let's say he does fall to the Falcons. Oh my goodness, absolutely he could finish as a top 15 running back. I'm excited about him. Are you as excited as I am?
I'm not. I don't think for me, I don't see him being a top, you said top 15? He does have that upside. Don't get me wrong. He does have the upside to be the top 15 in his first year, but I don't see him being that relevant right now, depending on where he falls. Once again, if he goes to somebody like the Atlanta Falcons, I can see him being relevant right now. If you go somebody like the Jets, I'm not really excited to get him. Once again, it's the Jets.
Okay.
I'm not really excited to kind of pick him up. I would rather sit on him, let him develop, and maybe I miss out on him this year. Maybe you don't want to miss out on him, and you want to pick him in those late rounds. But, maybe he's a handcuff. Maybe he's a handcuff for somebody and they get hurt, and he can come in. I'll quickly note,
sorry, just on Dynasty, he absolutely needs to be a top 3 pick in your Dynasty draft, in my opinion.
I like him. Okay. I like him in the top round,
page.
In the top area for me in Dynasty. It's Najee and then Travis for me.
Okay, cool. So I'm glad we're on the same page there. Okay, the next guy on our list, it looks like, I just looked at your list, it looks like we have the same fit, which is interesting because you didn't like it when we were talking about it. But I'll go ahead and let you start us off here. It's the 11th pick of the draft, and the New York Giants are on the board. Who do they select?
Jaylen Waddle out of Alabama, wide receiver. It's interesting. Look, I like Jaylen Waddle. There's concerns for me right off the back, just as a Giants fan. I'll try to be as non-biased as I possibly can. But I want to give you my biased perspective and my non-biased perspective. Can we do that really fast?
Sure.
Biased perspective, I don't think that we need to get a receiver. I'd rather get somebody else. I think Jaylen Waddle is a great receiver, is a great talent, but I don't think he has that build, that strength, and that ability to kind of open up the field for somebody like Daniel Jones. He's essentially a shorter Sterling Shepard, in my opinion. I think he's a lot more talented. I think he's a lot more talented than Sterling Shepard, but I just don't like that idea. Anyways, non-biased. This is why I have him going to the New York Football Giants because I think he is a great talent. He's a dynamic wideout. He can sit on the outside. He can sit in the slot. He can somebody that can be used in the backfield. His speed is tremendous. He has great hands. He has great catch radius. He's a threat on all levels, and I love Jaylen Waddle to go to the Giants. Non-biased.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Look, here's the conversation I would put up for the Giants to bolster this opinion. What's the conversation been with Daniel Jones? Well, it's been a couple things. Offensive line needs to be better. Saquon's injury, and he doesn't have the weapons, right? And I think interceptions and fumbles are probably the thing I'm most concerned about with Daniel Jones. But regardless, Waddle gives Jones a weapon. Let's not forget that Devontae Smith, did he have a Heisman, one of the best years from a wide receiver? He did. But guys, he wasn't actually the wide receiver one. That was Jaylen Waddle. But then Jaylen Waddle got injured.
Right.
So maybe we could be talking about Jaylen Waddle the way we were talking about Devontae Smith. Just saying that could have happened. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard.
Today, Junior.
Sterling Shepard. These guys aren't getting any younger. And is Slayton really that guy? I mean, who do you have? Because I feel like you really need a weapon.
No, absolutely.
For Daniel Jones to use.
I completely agree with you on a biased perspective. On a biased perspective, we need a receiver. We need somebody with talent. But I want to really tell you who I think we should pick, but that's the next person. But look.
Okay. Well, why don't you cover his strengths? Be good cop this time. I'll be back up.
Yeah. Like I said before, he's an amazing receiver. He can sit on the outside. He can sit in the slot. He's somebody that can be used in the backfield. His speed is tremendous. He is extremely fast. He can take over defenders. He can run past defenders. He has amazing hands. He's dynamic. He's a threat. He will be a threat on the field. He needs a great quarterback. Yeah. Is Daniel Jones a great quarterback? Who knows? Year 3. That's what Dave Gettleman said is year 3 to see if he's going to be this guy.
And what we know for sure is we have to trust every word David Gettleman says, right? All right, so let's talk about his weaknesses. Not exactly a big or strong wide receiver. He's not got a DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones type body. He's not the biggest guy. He's not the strongest guy. He could improve his route running, could be a little more precise with the way he cuts. And of course, the biggest looming weakness, is his injury history.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big injury. Can he recover from that and be the guy? Can he still reach that Hardman, Ruggs type speed? Is he still got that? I think we saw that, and I think he does, but it is something to point out. Okay, fantasy relevance in year 1. I will start. I personally believe he has the opportunity to have a Brandon Ayuk type rookie season. I think he is such a weapon that whoever's the offensive coordinator, wherever he does go, I think they should be planning their passing attack around him. That's what we saw with Ayuk. Man, what a talent. Let's get this guy the ball. I think whoever he goes to, hopefully that was a need. And the offensive coordinator is thinking, let me get this guy the ball and get him in space because he can make our team better. I think he could be highly fantasy relevant. I don't think you should draft him any higher than the late rounds because we said the same thing about Ruggs last year, right? That didn't work out. Sometimes the fit isn't right for that year. But I think he has that potential to have a Brandon Ayuk type season.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he could be fantasy relevant. It's hard to say on where he goes. If he does go to the Giants, I think he can be fantasy relevant immediately because there's no one else. I'm assuming if he does go to the Giants, Golden Tate is gone. But yeah, in my opinion, once again, the late rounds are the options. I see him going. You know, some people took Michael Pittman Jr. in the late round. Some people Some
people took Justin Jefferson and then dropped him.
That's what I'm about to say. Some people took Justin Jefferson in the late rounds, and and they kind of regretted it.
That's probably a dagger for anyone listening and that did that. I'm sorry. That's absolutely rude. Yeah, I love his outlook depending on where he goes, and it's just so fun to think about the what if scenarios. Mm-hmm. All right, we've got one more guy to talk about, and we're gonna wrap up the show. We've got very different fits for him. Okay,
right.
So I'll go ahead and let you start. All right, Kyle Pitts. Where's he getting drafted? Go ahead.
All right. So for me, ideal spot for me right now would be the Panthers. Number one, in my opinion. Obviously, I had somebody else going to the Panthers, but I think he kind of falls. I think it doesn't really happen for him. He probably goes in the second round. But I have Panthers, Giants, Cardinals. Okay, Panthers, Giants, Cardinals.
Just to clarify, sorry, you don't think Kyle Pitts is going in the second round? Someone else that you talked about earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sorry. Just wanted to make sure we had that clarity.
Right. So, Kyle Pitts to the Panthers, but this is the guy that I really think that the Giants should pick up because I think we should get a receiver in the offseason.
Stop.
This is my thought process. As a biased Giants fan, just so you guys understand, I think we should get Kyle Pitts. We'll get a receiver in the offseason. We'll trade Evan Ingram because we know he's just not that guy, I believe. Okay. I think he still could be a guy somewhere, but he clearly is not the guy for us. But I like Kyle Pitts going to the Panthers. I think the Panthers have all the pieces around him in the receivers, and DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, CMC in the backfield. They're going to get Kyle Pitts, and then they take, I think my pick was Trey Lance to the Panthers. Yeah. And that's a full circle for the Panthers.
Well, there's no way they get both of them.
Yeah, no way. No way they get both. But you never know.
So it would be Teddy.
One person can fall. Maybe they get somebody. Maybe they trade up or something.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
I like this pick for them.
Okay, and I agree. Thinking about that for Teddy, there's matchups everywhere that can be exploited in one-on-one coverage. All right, I wasn't able to click the draft sound for you, but all right, the Los Angeles Chargers are on the clock, and with the 12th pick, I think is what they have. They select Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. I'm pretty passionate about this pick and this fit, okay? Hunter Henry played on a franchise tag in 2020. The team hasn't necessarily committed to him in their future plans because otherwise they would have signed him to a long-term deal, I think. In this scenario, they don't need to do that. They get a dynamic tight end who's really a wide receiver, but he's just big enough to play tight end in Pitts to replace Hunter Henry. And I can promise you that Sir Justin Herbert would absolutely endorse this move. All right, I'm playing good cop. He's got the measurables, all right? He's got big size. He can win one-on-one battles easily. He's athletic. He's got great hands, great ball skills, explosive playmaker, difficult to cover, and he's got a great ability to create separation on his routes. That's important. That's why we saw Justin Jefferson do so well this year. Yeah. I'm going to let you play bad cop, and it's really, unless you found more things scouting than me, there's one big glaring weakness. But go ahead, play bad cop for us.
You're right. I only have one little note here, and it says he needs to be more powerful on the line, which means that he needs to know how to block, needs to figure it out. He needs to get that physicality in him. But what's crazy about this is that it is a weakness, but a weakness that can be easily developed because he is technically a tight end / wide receiver that's probably going to be lined up on the outside, which means that he's either going to be he's not going to be lined up on the line as often that people may think, and maybe they run a 2 tight end set where, or depending on the team they go to, where the secondary tight end is blocking and Kyle Pitts does a little side block and he runs his route, which I think could happen. Yeah. I like him going wherever he goes. Can I just say this? Let's jump into the fantasy relevance, okay? Wherever he goes, he's going to be fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I like it.
All right. Well, if we're going to jump into that, I think he's got instant top 8 tight end upside. And I don't want to jump the gun or create unnecessary hype, but I genuinely do believe he's got top 8 upside. And let's think about that for a second, because that's not a crazy thing to say. When you look at the top 8 tight ends in fantasy this year, it wasn't all that difficult to sneak your way into the top 8. It was really, really easy. In fact, I think Noah Fant, Noah Fant was the 8th best tight end. Guys, Noah Fant averaged 10 points a game. 10 points a game. I think it's very possible wherever Kyle Pitts goes, he could average more than 10 points a game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I do think he's got top 8 upside. I think what's more likely is he does finish top 12. We got Kittle coming back next year, so it'll be harder to get within those rankings. But I personally love him in Dynasty. He's definitely a top 6 pick for me in Dynasty. I think right at 6 he is. And in redrafts, this is a guy I'm looking to target late in drafts as my tight end 1, just to take a chance on him. I don't typically lock up tight ends early. I typically try and find a steal. Last year, I drafted Hayden Hurst in every league, and it didn't work at first, but it was a decent return at the end of the day. How do you feel about his overall upside in year 1?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he does have top 12 for me, at least in that agreement. Top 8 is a bit but I see it. I think if you are somebody that, because I usually just draft one tight end. I'll be honest with you. I draft one tight end. Hopefully, I don't really need him, and he can do what he does, and then I'll get the one tight end for the bye week. But if I don't draft a tight end early and I kind of go with a later tight end, maybe like a Tyler Higbee, which we kind of thought he was going to do good, but let's just say a Tyler Higbee or a Logan Thomas or an Austin Hooper and Eric Ebron, those guys, I will be getting a secondary tight end, and that will be Kyle Pitts. Okay, so that's my thought process. I think, and you're right, you could take a chance, take him early, which I do agree. You can take him early, and I think you can do that. But if you want to play it safe and do the 2 tight ends, then I'll be taking, if those were my guys on the board, these guys were on the board, I'm taking Kyle Pitts at that very, very late draft picks for me.
Okay. I think what we will be teaching and preaching on this podcast in the offseason is don't reach in drafts, right? So you always want to think about, will I get return in value for this pick, right? That's why we said don't reach on Matthew Stafford. Mm-hmm. And the same can be said. Don't take Kyle Pitts in like the 7th round of your drafts, guys. Let people fall, and if they fall, then it becomes a value pick. But you don't want to be reaching and then looking back and thinking, why did I reach? That's what we're going to be preaching all offseason, helping you get ready for the drafts next year. But this was exciting. This was a fun podcast to talk about. I love talking about the draft. I love talking about the what ifs. It just makes me so much more excited for it. Don't miss our next episode, okay? We've got some fun things planned for next week on the podcast. But Badaki, do you want to finish us off and say anything here today?
Patreon.com/FantasyLandFam. Great way to support the show if you like what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. If you like all our fantasy football content, if you like all the content that we're putting out on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, our Facebook groups, it's a great way to support the show. Patreon.com/FantasyLandFam. We thank you. We thank you. We thank you. We cannot thank you enough. Support the show.
Yeah, for real. Appreciate you guys. And we're excited for year 2. If you like what we're doing, you want to support the boys, that's the easiest way. So we really appreciate everyone considering that. All right, Padaki. It's good to see you. I'm glad we got to chat about this. Mm-hmm. This is actually a really fun one for me. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you on the next show. See you there.
See you there.
Hey, yeah, you, the one listening to this podcast, you made a good decision today. keep making those good decisions. You know what? Go ahead and do a little dance right now, like no one's watching. Cause you deserve it.